Welcome back to the 2022 SABR Analytics Conference. Our final presentations this year come from students, Joshua Mould and Sean Sullivan. SABR has been fortunate to be able to support the research of students through this conference and the Diamond Dollars case competition. We've also recently introduced an analytics certification program, which we will be adding curriculum to later this year. I hope you'll check it out. Our first student-led presentation today is from Joshua Mould. Joshua, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. I will share my screen now. Can everyone see that and hear me?
You're good to go.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Mould, and I'm a junior at Villanova University studying computer science and statistics. And today I'll be presenting to you on EAGLE, which is a plate discipline metric I developed and explained in my paper, Quantifying Hitter Plate Discipline in Major League Baseball, that I co-authored with Dr. Anderson. And before I start, I just want to say thank you to SABR for selecting me for this. It's really an honor to be presenting my work here today. So let's get right into it. If you take a look here, this is probably a GIF that has crossed many of your social media feeds, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. This is Charlie Morton throwing a curveball through the legs of Anthony Santander, and he actually decides to swing at it. Clearly a bad decision on his part, and luckily nobody was on base to see it though, so that's a good thing. It wasn't a very high important situation here, so that's a good thing for him, but still a bad decision. This next one, a little bit heavier of a situation. This is Byron Buxton swinging and missing at a pitch way outside the strike zone, up in a location that he had several previous pitches thrown as well in the at-bat. Clearly a bad decision here, but even worse because of the situation here, the bases are loaded with a 2-2 count and 1 out. And so instead of this being a 3-2 count with 1 out and the bases loaded, there are now 2 outs. So a force out at any base could end this inning for the Twins, and Buxton unfortunately decides to swing here. Clearly a bad decision. Now this one's a little bit different. This is Austin Hedges deciding not to swing here at a fastball right down the middle of the strike zone, a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. One might say a meatball. And this is also a pretty heavy situation with the bases loaded. Instead, though, there's 2 outs and a 2-2 count. So this ends the inning here when he decides to take this pitch. Clearly a bad decision. And on the eye test, you would definitely say he should have swung here. This one is also a little bit different. This is the Mariners catcher, Tom Murphy, swinging and cranking this fastball right down the middle, just foul though, just to the left of the left field foul pole. And initially the crowd's reaction is, oh, just foul. It's almost a home run. And well, it was almost a home run. So maybe this was a good decision to swing at this pitch despite the results. And that all triggered the question, how can we determine how good a player is at deciding when to swing or when to take a pitch? And the answer is EAGLE, which stands for expected additional runs gained by looking your swinging estimate. And I'm going to walk you through the process for creating this metric. So first we needed an evaluation metric, and we decided to use delta run expectancy. And many of you probably know how run expectancy works, but I'm going to go through a little example here to explain it. So run expectancy works off a matrix that depends on situations. This includes the base state and the out state. So if you look at the table here on the right, with the bases empty and no outs, historically, we would expect a team on average to score 0.461 runs throughout the rest of the inning from this base out state. And so with this example here, if we start in a game state with the bases empty and 0 outs, we would have a run expectancy of 0.461. Let's say the batter hits a double, a pretty good results, one would say. So then the base state changes to runner on second, and there are 0 outs, and the run expectancy of this situation is 1.068. The delta run expectancy is then calculated by subtracting the initial run expectancy from the final run expectancy. And so the delta run expectancy ends up being 0.607, which is a very good outcome for the hitter in this situation. And this can be done similarly with count, which is what we did as well. And so here's a little breakdown of the decision that the hitter has to make here at the plate. The hitter can either choose to take the pitch or to swing at the pitch. And from there, a bunch of different outcomes can come from that decision. On the take side, it's a little bit simpler. It's just a strike or a ball, pretty simple. Then on the swing side, though, it gets a lot more complicated. There's a lot of different things that can happen when a batter decides to swing, but we just decided to narrow it down to these 7 outcomes of miss, foul, out, single, double, triple, and home run. So the first thing we did was calculate delta run expectancy. So we utilized 2019 to 2020 StatCast data from the Baseballer R package. Then we calculated the run expectancy matrix from that. And then for each pitch, we determined the game state for each outcome, each possible outcome, then calculated run expectancy of these new game states, and then calculated the new delta run expectancy for each outcome by subtracting the original run expectancy from these possible run expectancies of these new game states. But run expectancy isn't that simple, unfortunately. Run expectancy depends on the batter. For example, Mike Trout is likely to score more runs than Freddie Galvis at the plate. And so we needed to adjust this to the batter. So we created an XG boost model that predicts delta run expectancy using the game situation and OPS. And then we adjusted the original run expectancy for outcomes based on the predicted values. So the new run expectancy ended up being the original run expectancy plus the predicted delta run expectancy for the hitter. And as you can see here, this is the relationship between predicted delta run expectancy and OPS. And so now that we had the delta run expectancies, we needed to predict the probabilities of each of these outcomes occurring. So on the take side of things, once again, a little bit easier, just a ball and a strike. So we needed to predict those probabilities, and we used a logistic regression model for this, using X location, Z location, top of the strike zone, and bottom of the strike zone as our predictors. And as you can see in the visual on the right, the strike zone is not, in fact, a rectangle as popularly believed. The swings, once again, a little bit more complicated. We needed to predict the probability of each swing outcome. And so to do this, we utilized pitch information, things like velocity, spin rate, movement, location, and type, situational information like count, outs, and batter and pitcher handedness, and then other statistics and StatCast data and descriptive features about the hitters and the pitchers. So things like plate appearances, average, exit velocity, launch angle for batters, then for pitchers, innings pitched, ERA, average velocity, average spin rate, and things like that. And so then we utilized cross-validation to optimize several XGBoost parameters and ended up with these results. So in this table, these values can be interpreted in this way. So if you look at the top left, we have the value 0.410 in the miss column and the miss row. So this is the average predicted probability of a miss from our model for the miss outcome on the left there. And so likewise, that value of 0.328 right to the right of it is the average predicted probability of a foul from our model on the pitches that were actually missed. And so in this situation, we want the values on the diagonal to be the highest of each column so that the actual predicted probabilities line up with the outcomes. And so as you can see here, with the miss predicted probability being highest for the miss outcome, that's a really good result for us. And it's greater than the others by a really good margin. And so just to point out another one, we have the average probability predictions for a home run here. And so on the right side, you can see that 0.052 number is much higher than the others in that column, a really good indication of how our model is performing. And so to bring it all together, we now have the probability of a strike and the run expectancy of a strike. Then we have the probability of a ball and the run expectancy of a ball as well. So what we can do is we can multiply the probability of the call by the run expectancy of a call, and then add these together to get the run expectancy of a take. And we can do a similar thing for the swing outcomes as well. We take the probability of a miss through the probability of a home run and multiply them by their corresponding run expectancies. And then if we add them together, we get the run expectancy of a swing. And so now that we have these, we have the expected runs gained of a swing and the expected runs gained of a take. And so this works in this way. So if the hitter decides to swing and the run expectancy of a swing is greater than the run expectancy of a take, then that value will be positive, which is a good thing for the hitter. And then likewise can be said for the take. And so Eagle is just the expected runs gained of the hitter's decision. So now we can evaluate this. So as you can see here, Eagle has a good correlation and relationship with walk percentage and O percentage. And this tells us that Eagle is actually measuring something. It really is corresponding to common plate discipline metrics that we have and look at every day, like walk percentage and O percentage. So that's a really good thing for our metric. The next thing is that Eagle is stable over time. It has a really good relationship from year to year. And that's really good because we wouldn't expect a hitter's decision-making ability to change too much over time from year to year. It's a pretty stable thing. It might vary a little bit, but not too much. But the biggest thing about Eagle is that it has a really strong relationship with OPS, and no other current plate discipline statistic accounts for the slugging aspect of baseball. For example, O percentage correlation with OPS is almost nothing. And so this just shows that really it's not just about the pitches you take, it's about which ones you decide to swing at too, because not all strikes may be good pitches to swing at. So Eagle can also be used to predict OPS. So in predicting this year's OPS, if you're in the 10th percentile of Eagle, you'd be predicted to have a 0.701 OPS. If you're in the 90th percentile of Eagle, you'd be predicted to have a 0.825 OPS. This is a very significant difference. It really shows the predictive power of Eagle. But even more so, if you look at next year's OPS, if you have an Eagle in the 10th percentile this year, you'd be predicted to have a 0.736 OPS next year. Excuse me. And if you have an Eagle in the 90th percentile of OPS this year, you'd be predicted to have excuse me, an OPS of 0.803, a very significant difference in just showing the predictive power of Eagle. And so now, excuse me, in applying this to the data, you can see on the left side some of your favorite hitters and some of the plate discipline legends like Juan Soto and Joey Votto. And then on the right side, you see some more free swingers like Jose Iglesias, who has 3 seasons in the top 10 of Worst Eagle. And so now we can go back to the beginning and evaluate these swings. So if we take a look at that Santander silly swing and miss, we can see that it has a probability of a miss of 0.803. That's a huge probability. And this results in an Eagle of about -0.1, almost losing 1/10 of a run with this swing. Luckily, there was no one on base, so it didn't cost him more. Buxton was not so lucky though. The probability of a miss was even higher, and because of the situation, he cost his team almost a full run of Eagle. Now, if we look at Austin Hedges, who decided to take this pitch, the probability of a home run was 0.1. That's a pretty big probability in terms of predicting a home run probability. And so because of the situation, the Eagle was a little bit over -1.5. So costing his team a significant amount. Excuse me. And so if we go back to Tom Murphy, who cranked this ball foul, was it a good decision? Well, the probability of a home run was 0.453. That's almost a 1 in 2 chance. So if you gave him this pitch one more time, he probably would have been a little bit more patient and sent this ball over the fence in fair territory. because of the situation, one runner on base, he pretty much added a full run of eagle with this swing. And so now, what if we turn eagle around? We can use eagle for pitchers as a way of measuring deceptiveness. So the new question here is, how good are pitchers at causing hitters to make bad decisions? And the answer is inverse eagle. And so as you can see here, we have eagle groups by pitcher and year. And so as you can see on the left, there's some very good pitchers with powerful stuff like Jacob deGrom topping the list. But then you also have a guy like Ryan Yarbrough, who maybe doesn't throw as hard. And he averages velocities in the 80s really. And he's still topping the list in eagle, just showing how deceptiveness works and how eagle works here and making hitters, causing hitters to make bad decisions. And so you have some really good relievers here on the right as well. Andrew Miller, Devin Williams, and Bruce DeGrad all with some stuff that'll blow you away too. And so this is also indicative of ERA here, just showing how much deceptiveness plays into pitching. And so in summary, eagle is a new and innovative statistic that truly evaluates a player's plate discipline. And it takes into account slugging as well and shows that you don't have to be the best at hitting the baseball to be successful. You still need to be good at hitting the baseball because when you decide to swing, you still have to be able to hit the ball. But it shows that a really big part of hitting is deciding when and when not to swing. And so this can be used on a pitch by pitch level or an aggregate level, as we showed, and it can predict future performance as well. And so inverse eagle can tell us a lot about a pitcher's ability too. And it shows that a lot of a pitcher's success comes from their ability to deceive the batter. And if you can master the art of deception, you might not need very good controller stuff to be a good pitcher. You probably need one or the other to be a good pitcher. But the art of deception is really something that contributes a lot to a pitcher's success. Thank you all for listening, and I can now answer any questions that you have. Okay, so this question from Christian says, for the swing decision, what did you do if the batted ball turned into an error? So in that case, that was just counted as an out. That's an O for whatever, O for 1. So yeah. And then, so did you include player, so from Eli, did you include the player ID in the XGBoost model then, so that the new run expectancy takes into account the difference between Trout and Gallo? So no, we just utilized OPS in order to do that, because we believe that would be predictive of delta run expectancy, and it was. And then from Gene, did you include bunt attempts as swings, or were they somehow split out? So I think that I utilize those as swings. I could probably clarify that though if you send me an email or a LinkedIn message. And we have not looked into our bunt data specifically in this context. From Ethan, do you think there would be a correlation between a player's minor league Eagle and their corresponding career major league OPS? So that's a really interesting one, because we've been wanting to expand this to minor league data as well, because obviously if a player comes into the majors and you don't have any pitch data on them, you can't really apply Eagle to them, and because it needs a good amount of pitches to be able to stabilize. And so applying this to players in the minor leagues would be really big and really helpful. And that would be a really good thing to look into. So from Christian, does the general public have access to Eagle in this data? Yeah, if you want to look into this more, I can pull up, let me send a link to the GitHub in the chat. Okay, so I just sent a link to the GitHub in the chat. From Jeremy, are these calculations readily available using 2021 statistics? Yes, so I did apply Eagle to 2021, so you can find that data. I would have to get it ready for 2022 though, and still haven't done that yet. So that could be something I do soon before the season starts as well. Let's see. Awesome. Okay, from Michael, do you think this data could be calculated in real time? Absolutely. I think that would be really cool to be able to do that, to be able to just pull up on a coach's tablet or something like that. Whether a player made a right decision there to swing or not, and then the player can even come back to the dugout and see how good was this swing? Was it a bad pitch to swing at? Should I have held back even though it was a strike? That kind of thing. Which players had the best Eagle last season from Jensen? That was so that was in the slide that also included 2021 as well. So I think Brandon Crawford was top of the list for the 2021 Eagle. So yeah. And then from Christian, did you consider using the expected outcomes of batted balls over and underperforming, that kind of thing? So that would be really interesting to try to bring into it. I think the model mostly accounted for that because it predicted the probabilities of these events occurring. But yeah, that would be interesting to look into. From Tobiah, are you planning to make Eagle a full database with Eagle and inverse Eagle listed somewhere for all players? So I do kind of have all the data on the GitHub. If you want to go and see all the data, you can find all the Eagles. Well, with that data, you can calculate up all the Eagles pretty easily for each batter and each pitcher as well. Let's see. From Kyle, what is your hope for the future of this stat? Where do you see it going in the next 3 to 5 years or beyond? So this is some really cool stuff that I'm actually really looking forward to looking into more. But right now I'm using it for pitcher decomposition, really, and seeing how much deceptiveness impacts a pitcher's repertoire and their individual pitches as well, their stuff, their control, their Eagle, and seeing how all that comes together to create a full pitcher. And then on the hitting side, I definitely think it can be used for a hitting evaluation as well, and really as a holistic measure of plate discipline. From Steven, do you think this information, or do you see this information being used by the media at all in broadcast? I would love to see that utilized by the media in broadcast. Then I can see it really easily being applied to broadcast. If we're able to calculate it live, then broadcast could put it up on the screen and say, well, this hitter probably shouldn't have swung at this pitch, or this hitter should swing at this pitch, that kind of thing. From Jeffrey, why did you choose OPS as opposed to other measures of offensive performance? So I chose OPS just because it was a basic, pretty general measure of hitting performance. There are definitely others that I could incorporate in there, but we don't think it would change our results too much. And then so from Steven, how far back can you go underlying stats wise? Would be interesting to see Eagle league wide. Yeah, so the furthest I can go back is 2015 because of the StatCast data. That's when StatCast data started coming out. It would be really interesting to try to create a form of eagle that can go back further. But yeah, as of now, that's as far as I can go back. And yeah, that looks like all the questions up there. Thank you so much for listening.
Joshua, thank you for joining us. That was really, really interesting to see. I hope everybody who is interested gets a chance to look at your GitHub here as well.